There's a moment quiet, often unnoticed, when you realize the chaos outside isn't what's breaking you. It's the storm within. You're not alone in that moment. Many of us walk through life carrying invisible battles, fighting noise, regret, anger, pressure, with no roadmap for peace. But what if peace was never out there to begin with? What if strength didn't mean control over others, but over yourself? The Stoics understood this long before the modern world gave us 10,000 ways to lose our focus and almost none to return to ourselves. They weren't perfect men, but they practiced something rare: clarity, presence, and restraint. And that's what we're here to rediscover. In this video, you'll learn 17 Stoic principles, not just for surviving modern life, but for mastering your inner world. These aren't lessons for the mind alone. They're medicine for the soul. Quiet, enduring, life-shifting if you let them be. So take a breath. You've arrived. And what comes next might just change the way you walk through the world. 1. Turn conflict into a test of mastery. You ever walk away from an argument and feel like you lost something, not just the fight, if you even called it that, but your peace, your sense of who you are? It's like your calm walked out the back door while your ego kicked the front one open. That's what conflict does. It pokes the parts of you that still need work. It presses on your pride, your insecurity, your need to be right. But here's the thing most people miss. Conflict isn't your enemy. It's your mirror. Marcus Aurelius didn't see challenges as threats. He saw them as training grounds, moments to observe yourself in motion to test what you've actually learned. Because anyone can be calm when nothing's pressing. Anyone can sound wise when no one's pushing their buttons. But when someone disrespects you, cuts you off, raises their voice, that's when your philosophy steps into the ring. You don't train for peace in peace. You train for peace in conflict. So next time tension rises at work, at home, with a stranger, try this pause, not to bottle it up, but to observe, to ask, what part of me is getting triggered here, and what does that teach me? That's how conflict becomes your dojo. Not a place to dominate, but a place to discipline yourself, to turn reaction into response, emotion into wisdom. Now, I'm not saying let people walk all over you. Stoicism isn't weakness, it's clarity. It's having enough strength to choose your action, not let it be chosen for you by a fleeting emotion. You can still set boundaries. You can still speak up. But do it from a grounded place, not a reactive one. Because when you stay composed in chaos, you don't just win the moment. You become the man who owns himself. So the next time conflict shows up, don't flinch. Welcome it like a teacher. Because how you act in that fire, that's who you really are. And every moment like that is another chance to master yourself a little more. 2. Drop resentment before it ages. You ever carry something so long, you forget what life felt like without it. I once spoke to a man in his 50s, looked tired, but not in the way you think. His body was strong, his voice clear, but his eyes, they held decades of disappointment. And not because life had been cruel, but because he had been carrying resentment like a stone in his chest. Someone betrayed him 20 years ago. A friend, a business partner. And ever since, even when things went right, that wound whispered in the background, you can't trust people. You'll get burned again. And you know what that does. It drains the joy out of the present. It turns every new connection into a threat. It puts a filter over your entire life, and everything good gets colored by old bitterness. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That's Stoicism. That's freedom. See, holding resentment doesn't punish the person who hurt you. It punishes you. It hardens your face, stiffens your heart, shortens your breath. It shows up in your posture, your relationships, even your health. But here's the truth. Resentment is not your identity. It's a habit. A story your mind keeps rehearsing because it hasn't learned a new one yet. And that new story, it begins with letting go, not for their sake, but for yours. Letting go doesn't mean what they did was okay. It means you're done carrying it. Done letting it live rent-free in your mind, poisoning every peaceful moment. So try this next time that old bitterness flares up. Just pause and ask yourself, what is this costing me? Not in theory, but right now. In energy presence, love sleep, and then ask, is it worth it? Most of the time the answer is no, because peace isn't found in payback, it's found in release. So breathe, drop the rock, not because they deserve it, but because you do. 3. Clarify the outcome. Before you respond, you ever say something and then immediately regret it? It was in a moment of anger. Maybe it was trying to be clever or trying to win. But what you got instead? Silence, tension, distance. I've been there, and I've seen grown men, good men, lose friendships, jobs, even marriages, not because they were wrong, but because they reacted without thinking through what they truly wanted. The Stoics had a powerful habit. Before they responded, before they opened their mouths or moved a muscle, they asked themselves, what is the outcome I want from this? Not how do I defend myself, not how do I make them see I'm right, but what would be the best result for everyone involved? Because reacting is easy. Anyone can do that. But responding with intention, that's what separates the wise from the wounded. I remember coaching a man in his late 30s, bright guy manager at a tech company. Every meeting he felt like his ideas were dismissed. One day he snapped, called out his boss in front of the team. And sure, he won the argument, but he lost trust, lost momentum, even lost sleep, replaying the moment over and over again in his mind. So I asked him, what did you want from that exchange? He paused and said, I just wanted to be respected. And I said, then why did you choose a response that guaranteed the opposite? That hit him hard, because he realized he wasn't thinking about the outcome. He was just reacting to the trigger. You see, when we let our ego take the wheel, it drives straight into conflict. But when we pause, step back, and ask ourselves, what's my aim here? We take back control. Sometimes the outcome you want is peace. Other times, it's clarity. Maybe it's keeping a relationship intact. Maybe it's just walking away with your dignity. But you can't reach that outcome if you don't define it first. Try this the next time. Tension rises before you respond. Breathe. Ask yourself, what do I actually want to happen here? Will this next sentence help or hurt? Will I be proud of how I handled this? 24 hours from now, that pause is power. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's a sign that you value your future more than your impulse. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. That includes your words. That includes your tone. Because once they leave your lips, you can't take them back. So speak like a man who's aiming at something, not a man who's just throwing darts in the dark. Respond like someone building his legacy, not just trying to survive the moment. And you'll find that what once felt like a battleground can become a space for clarity, growth, and deeper respect. All because you took 2 seconds to ask one simple question: what do I want to come out of this? 4. Your thoughts are not facts. You don't have to believe everything you think. Let that settle in for a moment. Because most of us, without realizing it, go through life treating every thought that crosses our mind as if it were gospel truth. A worry shows up. It must mean something terrible's about to happen. A voice inside whispers, "You're not good enough." Well, we nod and let it ruin the day, but what if I told you your thoughts are just that? Thoughts. They're not commands. They're not destiny. And they sure as hell aren't facts. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Epictetus taught that it's not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. That's where most of our suffering begins, not with reality, but with how our mind interprets it. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I worked with a guy, smart, dedicated father of 2. He came to me burned out. Not because of his job, not because of his family, but because his mind wouldn't stop attacking him. Every morning before he even got out of bed, the same thought loop kicked in. You're behind. You're not doing enough. You're failing. No one was saying that to him. No one in his life believed it. But his mind was shouting it, and he believed every word. So I asked him to try something. Next time that thought shows up, I said, don't argue with it. Don't push it away. Just say, I'm having the thought that I'm failing. It seems small, right? But that shift changes everything. Suddenly, you're no longer inside the thought. You're observing it. You've created space between you and the story. Because that's all most thoughts are, stories. And not all stories are worth believing. Think of it this way. Your mind is like a radio. It's always broadcasting memories, fears, judgments, assumptions. But you don't have to turn the volume all the way up. You don't have to dance to every tune it plays. You can learn to sit still, to listen, to ask, is this helpful? Is this even true? And more often than not, you'll realize it's just noise. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about plastering fake smiles or pretending everything's fine. No, this is about discipline, mental clarity, the courage to step back and question what your mind throws at you, especially when it's harsh. Because if a stranger walked up and said the things you say to yourself, you'd probably never speak to them again. But when it's coming from inside, we just accept it, let it shape us, let it shrink us. So let me remind you, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. You're the one watching the parade, not marching blindly in it. And in that awareness is freedom. The next time a thought tries to derail your peace, pause. Label it. There's that story again. Don't fight it. Don't feed it. Just let it pass like a cloud across the sky. Because the truth is, you don't need to silence your mind to find peace. You just need to stop mistaking every thought for truth. And when you do that, when you stop giving weight to every whisper, you reclaim the one thing that matters most, your ability to choose where your attention goes. That, my friend, is real strength. Quiet, steady, unshakable. 5. Say less, mean more. Don't just speak to be heard. Speak to be understood. There was a time in my life when I thought the more I talked, the more respect I'd earn. If I could out-argue someone, If I could fill every silence with clever words, maybe that meant I was in control. But the older I got, the more I realized something simple and humbling. Real strength doesn't need to shout. It barely needs to speak. There's something powerful, almost sacred about a man who knows when to hold his tongue. Not out of fear, but out of presence, out of intention. The Stoics believed that speech was like fire, useful illuminating, but dangerous if uncontained. So they practiced what we might call verbal discipline. They chose their words the way a sculptor chisels stone, carefully, sparingly, and with deep purpose. Seneca once wrote, "Speech is like life, it must be guided by reason." He didn't mean to be cold. He meant don't speak just to fill the air. Speak to add clarity. Speak when silence wouldn't serve better. Think about the people you respect most. Are they the ones who never stop talking, or the ones who speak little? But when they do, you listen. Words are like arrows. Once released, they can't return. And some hit places no apology can ever fully reach. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to prove your worth in conversation. Sometimes the strongest move is to say nothing at all. I remember a friend years ago, one of the calmest people I knew. He'd sit in a meeting quiet for 90% of the time, but when he finally spoke, everyone leaned in. Because when he opened his mouth, it wasn't to impress. It was to contribute, to guide, to clarify. He taught me something that no book ever could. Silence builds presence, and presence makes your words matter more. So if you find yourself tempted to react, to argue, to fill every pause, try this instead. Breathe. Listen longer. Speak last. And when you do speak, strip away the fluff. Let your words carry weight, not volume. Let them land like a stone, dropped into still water. Soft, but with ripples that last. In a world that rewards noise, practice being the still point. Be the one whose words come slowly but strike true. Because saying less isn't about withdrawing. It's about channeling your voice with precision. It's about meaning more by needing less. And that, my friend, is how your voice becomes not just heard, but remembered. 6. Use every setback as refinement. Life doesn't test you to break you. It tests you to reveal you. You know, setbacks don't always arrive with warning. They often crash in like a storm you didn't see coming. A betrayal, a failure, a door that closes before you even reach it. And when it hits, you might feel like the ground beneath you just gave way. Like you've lost your grip on everything that once felt steady. I've been there, and I've learned something that the Stoics knew long before us. A setback is not the end of your story. It's the forge where your character is shaped. Marcus Aurelius, facing plagues, wars, and political treachery, never cursed the winds. He leaned into them. He wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Not because he enjoyed the struggle, but because he saw it as a necessary fire. One that burns away the excess, the ego, the illusion, and leaves behind something cleaner, tougher, real. When things fall apart, we often ask, why me? But maybe the better question is, what's being revealed right now? What weakness is rising to the surface? What false belief is asking to be examined? What part of you needs to grow? Life doesn't hand you adversity as punishment. It hands it to you as material, to shape, to learn, to refine. Think of a blade. It's not sharpened in comfort. It's honed through friction, through pressure, through fire. You don't become resilient by winning every battle. You become resilient by getting back up from the ones you thought would destroy you. One of the most quietly powerful truths I've come to accept is this: every man is broken somewhere. Every woman carries a wound. But those cracks, they're not signs of failure. They're invitations to grow deeper, to stand truer, to become less dependent on circumstances and more anchored in principle. So next time life knocks the wind out of you, don't ask for an easier path. Ask for a clearer mind. Ask for steadier hands. Ask for the courage to face it fully and the wisdom to use it well. Because setbacks are not detours. They are part of the way. They strip away the unnecessary and leave you with what can't be shaken. And when you meet yourself in the middle of that storm, not with panic, but with presence, you'll see it clearly. You're not breaking. You're becoming. 7. Pause before you react. A 2-second pause can save you from a 2-week regret. Let's be honest. Sometimes it only takes a second, one text, one comment, one look, and boom. Your blood spikes, your jaw tightens, and before you know it, you've said something you can't unsay, done something you can't undo. But here's the thing. That moment, the space between trigger and reaction, that's where your power lives. Not in being the quickest to respond or the loudest in the room, but in your ability to hold the line just for a breath and ask yourself, what am I really about to do here? Epictetus, one of the toughest minds the Stoic tradition gave us, taught this clearly. We're not disturbed by events themselves, but by the interpretations we layer onto them. And those interpretations, they flare up faster than we think. That's why the pause matters. Because without it, we're not choosing, we're reacting. We're giving away our freedom in exchange for a fleeting release. But when you pause, even if it's 2 seconds, you reclaim your agency. You buy yourself just enough time to go from knee-jerk to thoughtful, from reactive to deliberate, from chaos to calm. I remember a friend telling me once, I used to fire off texts when I was mad. Then I'd spend the rest of the night explaining, apologizing, unraveling damage I'd caused in 5 seconds flat. Then he started practicing the pause. Just 2 seconds. Just one breath. And it changed everything. He didn't become passive. He became powerful. Because his words, when they came, were steady, intentional. He stopped being a flame and became the fire pit, controlled, warm, unshaken. See, the pause doesn't mean you suppress your feelings. It means you hold them in your hands long enough to understand them. And from there, you act not to win, not to dominate, but to lead. To live from principle, not pressure. So the next time you're triggered by an insult, a headline, a betrayal, pause. Just for a moment. Feel the rush, but don't ride it. Watch it pass like a wave. And in that gap, ask what matters more here, being right or being wise. Because the man who pauses owns himself. He doesn't waste time cleaning up emotional wreckage. He builds. He strengthens. He speaks when he's ready, and he walks away when it serves no purpose. And in a world that's addicted to reaction, he becomes a quiet force, respected, trusted, unshakable. 8. Accept reality without resentment. Acceptance is not weakness. It's the first step toward real strength. There's a kind of pain that doesn't show up in scars or bruises. It lives in quiet resistance, that voice in the back of your mind that whispers, "This shouldn't have happened," or "They never should have done that to me." You carry that weight longer than you realize, not because life was unfair, but because you kept arguing with it long after the moment passed. See, resentment feels like armor, but it's really a chain. You think you're protecting yourself, but you're actually tethering your soul to a moment you can't rewrite. One of the hardest lessons the Stoics teach, and one of the most freeing, is what has happened, and no amount of regret, rage, or resentment can undo it. Now, that doesn't mean you roll over. It doesn't mean you like what happened. It simply means you stop leaking energy into the impossible, trying to control what's already gone. Marcus Aurelius lived this truth deeply. He faced betrayal, war, illness, and personal loss. And yet in his meditations, he never cursed the gods or blamed fate. Instead, he wrote, "Do not wish for events to happen as you want, but wish for them to happen as they do, and you will find peace." That's not surrender. That's strength without struggle. That's the kind of inner steadiness that can't be shaken by disappointment, because it's rooted in the present, not the past. I once met a man who spent years resenting a father who never showed up. He said, "I built my whole life around proving him wrong." But what he didn't see was that in doing so, his father still controlled him. Not through presence, but through resentment. Only when he truly accepted, that he couldn't change what was done, did he finally start building a life not in reaction to pain, but in alignment with who he truly wanted to become. That's what acceptance gives you: freedom. Not freedom from scars, but freedom from being ruled by them. So ask yourself, what are you still fighting that's already over? What would happen if you stopped resisting and started responding? Because when you stop wrestling with the past, you finally have the hands free to shape the future. And that's where real transformation begins, not in changing what happened, but in choosing how you move forward from it. 9. Choose what you feed your mind. Your mind is fertile ground. Be careful what you plant there. If there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's that the quality of your life often mirrors the quality of the thoughts you allow in. Not the thoughts that float through your mind. Those will come and go like clouds. But the ones you water, the ones you sit with, the ones you rehearse like a broken song in your head, that's what shapes you. You wouldn't pour poison into your drinking water, would you? So why keep feeding your mind with negativity, drama, and distraction, as if it costs you nothing? The truth is, your mind is like a garden. Every input is a seed. And whether it's an idea, a memory, a comment, or a headline, you're planting something. The Stoics understood this long before the age of smartphones and 24/7 outrage cycles. They knew that what you allow into your mind eventually colors how you see the world, and more importantly, how you see yourself. That's why Epictetus warned, "A man is what he thinks about all day long." He didn't mean that in a poetic way. He meant it as a challenge, a mirror. So ask yourself, what are you giving space to in your head? Endless comparison. The opinions of people who don't even know you. Bitterness over things you can't change. Or maybe just noise. Scrolling, swiping, skimming through distractions that feel harmless, but slowly pull you away from your purpose. You don't need to be a monk in a monastery to guard your mind. You just need a bit of awareness, a pause, a filter. I know a man used to be glued to the news. Not just staying informed, he was obsessed. Every crisis, every scandal, every opinion piece, he swallowed it all like medicine. But it made him sick, not physically, but mentally. He was anxious, angry, scattered. One day he finally said, "What if I curated my mental diet the way I curate my meals?" So he started trimming the noise. He stopped feeding on fear. And something remarkable happened. His mind began to quiet and his focus returned, and so did his peace. Your attention is a currency. Where you spend it matters. If you feed your mind with cynicism, don't be surprised if hope dries up. If you feed it with garbage, don't expect clarity. But if you begin day by day to nourish it with wisdom, with stillness, with truth, you start to grow in the direction you were meant to. Not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger, clearer, more rooted. So take a moment and ask, what am I planting in the garden of my mind today? Is it making me better, wiser, more grounded, or just more distracted, more reactive, more exhausted? You won't always have control over what comes at you, but you do have control over what you entertain, what you hold, what you build on. And that's more power than most people ever claim. So guard your mind like you would a sacred flame, because everything you think, everything you focus on, everything you absorb is shaping who you're becoming. Choose your inputs like your future depends on it, because it does. 10. Practice invisible integrity. Do the right thing even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. There's a kind of strength that doesn't get applause. It doesn't trend. It doesn't go viral. It's not loud. It's not flashy. But it's the kind that builds a life you can look at in the mirror without flinching. That's the strength of invisible integrity. You see, character isn't formed in public. It's revealed there. But it's built in private, in the quiet choices you make when no one is watching, when no one will praise you, when doing the right thing feels like a lonely road. The Stoics believed that integrity wasn't about recognition. It was about alignment. Your actions matching your values. Your inner compass pointing north even when the world around you spins. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. Not the opinion of others, not the outcome, not the reward." It's not always easy. Let's be honest. There's often no one there to say thank you when you choose honesty over gain, when you take responsibility instead of shifting blame, when you honor a promise that would have been easier to break. But that's the point. It's supposed to be invisible. Because invisible integrity is not for the world. It's for you. It's how you become someone you trust. And that trust, self-trust, is the foundation of real peace. I remember years ago a man I respected told me something that never left me. He said, "Who you are when nobody's watching, that's your real resume." At the time, I brushed it off. But over the years, I've come to realize your public wins mean very little if your private world is filled with compromises. You can fool others, but you can't fool your conscience. And over time, that quiet voice, it either becomes your greatest ally, or the weight that slowly eats at your sense of self. Now, invisible integrity doesn't mean perfection. It means consistency. It means choosing what's right even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you something. It's not about being seen as good. It's about actually being good. And only you know the difference. You may think, well, no one will know if I cut this corner. But you'll know. And that, knowing it, compounds. Every small lie, every compromise, every moment you betray your own values, they stack up. They hollow you out from the inside. But the reverse is also true. Every time you choose the higher road, no matter how small, you add something solid to your foundation. You reinforce your dignity. You become more whole, more grounded, more free. It's why the Stoics trained their minds daily, not just to reason clearly, but to live as if someone were always watching, even when they weren't. Because someone is watching you. So if you want peace, If you want confidence, if you want to walk through the world without shame or self-doubt, start here. Tell the truth when lying would be easier. Keep your word when breaking it would go unnoticed. Act with honor even when there's no reward, because your soul knows, and your soul keeps score. And in the end, what will matter most is not how others saw you, but who you became when no one else was looking. That's invisible integrity, and it's the quiet strength of every great man and woman I've ever known. 11. Stay present. Your imagination makes you angry. Most of your suffering isn't real. It's imagined, and you can stop feeding it. How many times have you been angry, not because of what someone did, but because of what you think they meant? Not because of what happened, but because of what you imagined might happen next. That's the trick your mind plays on you. It takes one small moment, a glance, a tone, a delay, and it spins a whole story from it. And before you even realize it, you're breathing heavy. Your shoulders are tense. Your mood has shifted, all because of something that might not even be true. Here's what the Stoics knew long before neuroscience confirmed it. Your imagination is powerful, but when left unchecked, it becomes a factory for unnecessary pain. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Today I escaped from anxiety." Or no, I discarded it because it was within me in my own perceptions, not outside. That line changed the way I see things. It means that most of what we suffer, anger, fear, bitterness, doesn't come from the actual event. It comes from the story we attach to it. You're angry, she didn't text back. Maybe it's because you told yourself a whole narrative about being ignored, rejected, disrespected. But maybe she's just busy. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she's struggling with her own storm. The point is you don't know, and yet your body is reacting as if your assumption were fact. That's the danger of imagination untrained by reason. The Stoic practice is not to kill imagination, but to discipline it, to stay present, to refuse to chase ghosts and shadows, to deal with what is not what might be. I've had moments where I wasted an entire day obsessing over something that never even happened. A meeting I thought went badly, a conversation I misread, a look I assumed meant judgment. And after all that stress, I'd find out the truth. And it was never what I feared. Never. That's when I realized the mind is a powerful storyteller, but not always a truthful one. So what do? You pause, you breathe, you anchor yourself to what's actually happening right here, right now. Is someone yelling at you in this moment? Then maybe you don't need to rehearse that argument in your head. Is your life being threatened in this moment? Then maybe your fear is just a projection. You gain freedom when you stop fighting battles that don't exist. When you stop suffering through conversations that never happened. When you stop reacting to people who aren't even in the room. A Stoic doesn't let imagination lead emotion. He lets presence lead clarity. He asks what is actually happening right now. What do I know for sure without assumptions? That discipline of calling your mind back to the moment that's strength. It's not always easy. Your brain will want to wander. It will want to defend, to predict, to analyze. But with practice, you can train it to stay. And when you do, you start to see things for what they really are. Not through the lens of fear, but through the lens of truth. Because most of what makes you angry was never real to begin with. And when you live in the present, you stop feeding the fire of imagination, and you start walking through life with calm, with clarity, with control. 12. Build calm like a muscle. Calm isn't something you find. It's something you practice. Most people think calm is a mood, something you stumble into when the stars align, when the bills are paid, the kids are quiet, the inbox is empty, the traffic is light, and the world gives you a break for once. But let's be honest, that day rarely comes, and if your peace depends on perfect conditions, you'll spend your life waiting. The Stoics had a better idea. Calm is a discipline, something you train like a muscle, something you carry with you into chaos, not something you hope to find after the storm passes. Marcus Aurelius faced war betrayal, political pressure plague. Yet he wrote with a tone of steady control, a grounded presence. Not because life was easy, but because he trained his mind to stay composed regardless of what the world threw at him. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's what calm is. Strength. Not weakness, not passivity. Strength that isn't loud. Strength that doesn't panic. Strength that breathes deeply before it moves. Think about the people you admire most. The ones who walk into a tense room and somehow soften the air. They don't raise their voice. They don't dominate. They bring calm, and people feel it. That doesn't come by accident. It's built slowly, intentionally, through repetition. Like going to the gym, you train calm by showing up to it daily. You don't wait until life explodes to start practicing. You build the muscle beforehand, so that when the pressure comes, you don't collapse. You hold your ground. So how do you train calm? You start with small moments. You're in traffic. Breathe. Notice the urge to react, then let it pass. Someone speaks sharply to you. Pause. Feel the heat rise, then choose not to throw fuel on it. You're overwhelmed by work decisions, expectations. Don't spiral. Zoom out. Prioritize. Respond. Not react. Each time you do that, each time you choose steadiness over reactivity, you're lifting mental weights. And with time, what used to shake you no longer does. But let's be clear, this isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about mastering your response to it. It's about building the internal space between stimulus and response where your freedom lives. That space is where calm is built. That's where power is born. The Stoics didn't deny emotion. They just refused to be ruled by it. And so can you. You don't need to meditate for hours a day or live in a mountain cave. You just need to notice, to breathe, to ask yourself, is this how I want to show up in the world right now? Not later. Now. Because calm doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you feel fully, then act wisely. So let the world spin. Let others shout. Let the chaos swirl around you. And you'll be the one who doesn't flinch. The one who breathes. The one who listens, responds, holds steady. Not because it's easy, but because you've trained for this. You've built the muscle. And over time, calm stops being something you practice and becomes something you are. 13. Know the cost of distraction. What you give your attention to is what your life becomes. Distraction feels harmless, doesn't it? Just one more scroll, one more click, one more glance at the phone while waiting in line, or while someone you care about is speaking to you. But those tiny moments, they add up. And the cost isn't just time, it's you. The Stoics didn't live in a world of algorithms or constant notifications, but they understood attention. They knew that a scattered mind leads to a scattered life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others. Be occupied only with what you yourself are doing. In other words, don't outsource your focus. Don't let the noise of the world drown out your own inner voice. Because here's the hard truth. Every time you give in to distraction, you abandon something that matters. Maybe it's a meaningful project. Maybe it's the presence of your child. Maybe it's your own mental clarity, your own stillness. Distraction rarely feels dangerous. It comes dressed like comfort, a break, a reward. But over time, it becomes a thief, stealing your purpose in small, silent moments until you can't remember what you were building. I once knew a man, brilliant, creative, full of ideas, but he was always plugged in, always reacting. Notifications lit up his screen every few seconds, and he wore it like a badge of importance. But deep down, he was exhausted, unfulfilled, because all that stimulation, it never gave him space to think, to feel, to create. He was busy, but not focused. And there's a difference. Busyness feels productive, but often it's just well-dressed distraction. The Stoics believed in essentialism, cutting away what doesn't serve your path. Not out of harshness, but out of love for what does matter. So I'll ask you plainly, where is your focus right now? Not where you want it to be, not where you say it is, but where it actually is. Are you fully present? Or are you checking in on 5 things at once, never fully arriving in any of them? Because attention is not infinite, and the world is not neutral. It wants your eyes, your clicks, your time, and eventually your identity. That's why you must guard your focus like a sacred fire. You don't need to become a monk, but you do need to become intentional. Start small. Put your phone in another room for an hour. Schedule time to think. No music, no screen, just you. Say no to the next piece of content that tempts you away from your purpose. Close the tab. Mute the noise. Come back to your life. Because what you focus on expands. If you feed your mind with distraction, you build a distracted life. If you feed it with presence, you build a powerful one. And that's what this journey is about. Not perfection, but presence. Not reacting to everything, but choosing the one thing that matters most, again and again. So the next time distraction whispers, just for a second, ask yourself, what is this really costing me? And choose to stay, to focus, to return to yourself. Because your life is shaped not by what you want to do someday, but by what you give your attention to today. 14. Let go of what doesn't serve you. You are not meant to carry everything, especially not what weighs you down. We live in a world that teaches accumulation. Accumulate stuff. Accumulate opinions. Accumulate responsibilities, titles, expectations, even pain. But the Stoics taught the opposite. Wisdom isn't found in holding more, it's found in knowing what to release. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. If it's not useful, don't carry it." It sounds simple, but letting go, truly letting go, can be one of the hardest practices there is. Because we get attached to habits, to relationships, to roles we've outgrown, to ideas about who we think we should be. And yet some of these things, they stopped serving us a long time ago. They drain our energy. They clutter our minds. They make us reactive, anxious, disconnected from ourselves. The Stoic path asks, is this helping you grow? Is this bringing you peace, or is it keeping you stuck? I've had to let go of friendships that became one-sided, careers that no longer aligned with my values, even inner narratives like the belief that I had to please everyone to be worthy. And every time I let something go, I discovered something surprising. I didn't lose myself. I found more of myself. You don't let go because you don't care. You let go because you finally do. You care about your peace, your clarity, your purpose. And that means learning to walk away from the things that blur your vision. It might be a grudge you've held for years. It might be the voice in your head that always says, "You're not enough." It might be the need to explain yourself to people who aren't even listening. Whatever it is, if it doesn't serve your higher self, it's time to release it. Letting go isn't a single moment. It's a habit, a muscle you build through small acts of self-trust. It's saying no to drama that doesn't belong to you. It's stopping mid-thought when the old story tries to pull you in. It's quietly removing your energy from what drains you without needing to announce it to anyone. Because here's the truth. You don't owe your suffering to anyone, not to your past, not to your guilt, not to the image you've been holding on to for too long. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to shed. You're allowed to choose lightness over heaviness. The Stoic life isn't about adding more. It's about subtracting what's not essential until only truth remains. So today, ask yourself, what am I holding that no longer serves me? And then start to set it down. Not all at once, just one thought, one habit, one invisible weight at a time. Because every time you let go, you create space for peace, for clarity, for who you are becoming. 15. Turn silence into strength. The quieter you become, the more you can hear. In a world addicted to noise, silence can feel uncomfortable, even threatening. We're taught that we must speak to be heard, react to be respected, or to stay relevant. But what if true strength, the kind that endures, isn't loud at all? The Stoics believed in the power of silence, not as avoidance, but as command, not as weakness, but as discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be silent for the most part, or speak only what is necessary, and in few words." Why? Because words are not neutral. They can heal or harm, clarify or confuse, elevate or inflame. When used carelessly, they become weapons. But when used with intention, they become tools for mastery. I've learned that silence, when chosen, not forced, is a form of strength that most people never cultivate. It's the strength to pause when others provoke, to listen when others assume, to think deeply before releasing energy into the world. And here's the deeper truth. Silence doesn't mean you're powerless. It means you're in control. There were moments in my life when someone would insult me or challenge me or try to pull me into an argument, and I felt the urge to respond to prove myself, to correct them. But when I chose silence, not from fear, but from wisdom, I realized I didn't lose anything. In fact, I gained everything. My peace, my clarity, my control. Because silence is never just about withholding speech. It's about preserving your energy. It's about holding your fire until the right moment, if it even needs to be released at all. In silence, you hear your true self. The noise of the world fades. The ego settles. And what remains is you unfiltered, unshaken aware. The world may interpret silence as submission. Let them. You don't live to satisfy their interpretation. You live to maintain your inner equilibrium. And if silence is what keeps you centered, then silence is your strength. You don't have to clap back. You don't have to win every debate. You don't have to explain your worth. Sometimes the most powerful move is to say nothing and keep building your life in peace. There's a reason the wisest people in history spoke little but carried immense presence. Their strength wasn't in volume. It was in restraint, in presence, in knowing when to speak and when to let silence speak for them. So the next time you feel the urge to fill the space, ask yourself, is this silence empty, or is it full of power? If it's full, stay in it. Let it guide you. Let it sharpen your awareness like a blade that only cuts when needed. Because you don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to be aligned, and in silence, that alignment becomes clear. 16. Control yourself instead of controlling others. You have control over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Most of our frustrations in life come down to this. We want people to act how we expect. We want them to speak kindly, respond thoughtfully, do what's right. We want traffic to move loved ones to understand the world to behave. But the more you try to control others, the more control you lose over yourself. This is one of the hardest truths the Stoics teach. Your power does not lie in fixing other people. It lies in mastering your own response. It took me years to understand this. There were times I thought if I just explained more clearly, they'd change. If I just stayed calm, they'd finally listen. If I tried hard enough, they'd do the right thing. But here's what life taught me. People don't change because we want them to. They change when they're ready. And sometimes, they never will. So what do you do with that truth? You shift your focus inward. The moment you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you begin to reclaim your peace. The Stoic doesn't waste energy trying to bend the world. He bends himself to move with the world wisely. Let me give you an example. You're in an argument. Your instinct says, push back, defend, prove. But what if instead you paused and asked, what part of me is being triggered here? That question doesn't fix the other person, but it begins to free you. Or say someone disappoints you. They said they'd show up. They didn't. You feel hurt, angry, maybe betrayed. The reactive part of you wants to lash out, make them feel what you're feeling. But ask yourself, will that lead to peace? Will that truly give you strength? Or would it be stronger to feel the emotion, acknowledge it, and then choose how you want to move forward? Because the truth is, you can't control whether people are honest, fair, or kind, but you can control whether you are, and that's real power. Control of self is quiet. It doesn't always win the argument. It doesn't always get the last word, but it walks away with dignity and tact. You might not be able to stop someone from yelling, but you can choose not to mirror their fire. You can choose calm. You can choose distance. You can choose your inner stance. This isn't weakness, it's self-respect. The Stoics believed he who controls others is strong, but he who controls himself is unbreakable. So the next time you feel the urge to fix someone else, pause. Return to what you can influence: your thoughts, your breath, your words, your response. There, and only there, will you find true freedom. Because peace isn't found in controlling others. It's found in controlling yourself and letting the rest be what it is. 17. Redefine strength as restraint. The strong man is not the one who can strike the hardest, but the one who can hold back his strike with purpose. When most people think of strength, they think of force, volume, power that asserts itself, loud, immediate, and undeniable. But Stoicism teaches a different form of strength, a deeper, quieter one that doesn't erupt, it endures, one that doesn't need to prove it simply is. Restraint is not weakness. It's power held in check. It's the ability to act and the wisdom to wait. Marcus Aurelius never equated strength with dominance. For him, strength meant control over impulse, mastery of emotion, clarity in chaos. And that's far harder to achieve than just reacting. Anyone can explode. Anyone can lash out when angry, raise their voice when disrespected, or retaliate when wounded. That's not strength, that's untrained energy. But the man who can pause, who can choose how and when to respond, is a man who holds true power. There were moments in my own life when walking away from a fight took more courage than staying in it. When choosing silence over sarcasm felt like biting down on a live wire. But I've learned it's in those moments when everything in you wants to fire back that your character is either revealed or refined. The world will call you weak for not reacting. Let them. They don't understand that restraint is the result of discipline, and discipline is born from self-respect. Think of a warrior, not the wild one who swings first, but the calm one who waits, who watches, who only moves when it truly matters. That's Stoic strength. You don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to correct every wrong or respond to every slight. You are not obligated to match anyone's chaos with your own. Instead, pause. Return to yourself. Ask, will is acting? Serve me or simply satisfy my ego? Will it bring peace or prolong the storm? True strength is choosing peace when war would feel easier. True strength is standing still when you could easily strike. True strength is being centered even when the world tries to pull you off balance. And don't misunderstand, this isn't about suppression. It's about transmutation. You don't deny your emotion, you redirect it. You don't ignore the fire inside you, you harness it. You use your power when it serves something greater, your integrity, your values, your peace. So from this day forward, redefine what it means to be strong. Don't measure it by how loudly you speak or how quickly you respond. Measure it by how deeply you listen, how clearly you think, and how gracefully you hold the power you have without always needing to show it. Because true strength is not in force, but in restraint. Your mastery begins here. You've just walked through centene, timeless Stoic principles, not as rules to memorize, but as tools to live by. These aren't abstract philosophies. They're practical anchors for a chaotic world. And the more the world spins, the more we need this anchor, something quiet, solid, real. Because the truth is, you won't become unshakable overnight. But every day when you choose clarity over chaos, restraint over reaction, presence over distraction, you take a step closer to true strength. This isn't about perfection. It's about practice, about noticing your thoughts before they take over, about building calm like a muscle, about reclaiming the parts of you that have been scattered by noise, comparison, and expectation. And if you've made it this far, it means something inside you is ready. Ready to live more deliberately, more inwardly free, more powerfully quiet. So I invite you, don't let this video be the end of your journey. Let it be the beginning of something deeper. If this message spoke to you, if even one of these principles struck a chord, subscribe to Stoic Outlook. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs a breath of clarity, and leave a comment below. Let's keep this conversation alive. Let's grow together quietly, deliberately, and with strength that doesn't need to shout. There's more to come. and I promise the next chapter will meet you right where you are.